What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another video and Happy New Year. I can't believe it's already January of 2025. This is insanity. But that being said, I was very excited to film this video and share it with you guys. And I had to wear my Geraldine's Buttery Bagels sweater because it is in regards to the Solaria universe. And yes, I'm here with you with a series review video of none other than Darkmore Penitentiary, bringing us to a conclusion of the 23 books in the Solaria universe thus far. Granted, I do accept that Neverkeep has been released and it is books number 24, but because that series is not complete yet, I'm not counting it. It's not going to be read until that series is complete. Because these books are heart-wrenching. They kill you, they murder you, they cause you pain, they make you cry, they make you feel every emotion under the planet. And then when the characters finally win at the end, it's almost like relief, but it's like it's not enough. You know what I mean? But that's neither here nor there. But yes, today we will be talking about the Darkmore Penitentiary series, which is the third series in the Solaria universe. So you start with Zodiac Academy, books 1, 2, and 3. Then you do the second series, which is actually the initial series, which is the Boys of the Zodiac, which is a Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac Academy, which is 5 books. Then you go back to Zodiac Academy and finish that, which is a total of 9 books and I believe 5 novellas, which is 14 books. And then we are moving on to Darkmore Penitentiary, which is 13 books. And 4 books. And some of these books are thick, guys. They are thick. They're like over 1,000 pages thick. So yeah. Anyways, I started reading this series back in October and I had to absolutely finish it by the end of the year. And now I am technically filming this video in December, but we're going to release it in January, hence the January intro. But I am cheating. And these have been completed on the 19th of December, and now here we are talking about this series. For those who are new here, welcome. My name is Jaya. I put out videos every wow, I'm off today, guys. I put out videos every Sunday and Wednesday talking about all things books with a smattering of randomness here and there. Today's video is a series review, and we are talking about the final series in the Zodiac Academy as explained already. If books are your vibe and that is where you like to be and it makes you cozy and happy, then you are in the right place in this little corner of the internet. So definitely consider hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell if you haven't done so already. I promise you won't regret it. And for those of you who are returning, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your support so much. It's so wonderful to create this beautiful community where we get to talk about all things books. So without further ado, let's jump into the review. Now, first and foremost, for those who have seen the other reviews that I did on both the Zodiac Academy as well as the Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac series, Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac introduces a lot of main characters that are going to show up in the Darkmore Penitentiary series. Within this world, in the Ruthless Boys of the Academy, you are introduced to Leon and Dante, who are 2 of the main characters. They are also you're also introduced to Ryder, who is another one of the main male characters in the series. And then finally we have Gabriel, who happens to be a seer. Now, in the original 5 books that were about that group of characters, you are also introduced to 2 gangs. You are introduced to the Lunar gang, and then you are also introduced to the Askira gang. Dante happens to be the leader of the Askira gang. Ryder is the Lunar head. So this is where all of this drama and everything is stemming from, and it originally starts. Within the Dante Askira clan, they talk about how they speak Fatalian and how the family is so important, and they're basically a bunch of mobsters, gangsters, if you will, that run this kind of sketchy part of Solaria. They're very powerful fae. They have a lot of money behind them. It's completely family motivated. Very, very Italian mob vibes. That's what you get from these characters. Dante happens to have a cousin named Rosalie, who was introduced in that series at the age of 14. You then see her again in the Zodiac Academy series, as well as many of the other characters, which is why you do books 1 through 3 of Zodiac Academy, then jump into Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac, then jump back to Zodiac Academy, and then continue the series in order. So, Rosalie, who is introduced in the first set of books with the Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac is then reappearing in the Zodiac Academy at the ripe age of like 16, 17 at that point. And then by the time Darkmore Penitentiary starts, she's in her 20s. Now, this woman is basically an alpha wolf. She has the capacity to gather followers behind her and have her own pack. She's constantly like looking for the next big thing, the thrill of the chase. And her goal is to break into the most dangerous, most well-kept prison system in all of Solaria, where it's never been heard of anyone breaking out before, and break out some inmates from that prison. And that's basically where this story is headed. It is a reverse harem, so it's a one main female lead and 4 main male leads. It is very, very intense in terms of the pace of the story, the craziness that's happening, the high stakes. That's all wonderful. It is also very spicy. So if you're not a spice girl, then this might not be the right set for you. Or you can read it like me, where when the spice got to be a little too much for me, I would just skip the chapters and we would keep going, because it doesn't really take away from the story. One thing I will say about Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti is they like to randomly throw these romantic scenes, if you will, into the book for the sake of spice that don't always make sense in the situations that are occurring. I will say Zodiac Academy did a better job of spice than all the other series, in my humble opinion, followed by Darkmore Penitentiary. It was more palatable and tolerable for me in this series. Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac, I hate the main female lead. I hate her. I hate her so much. I think she's useless and worthless and pointless, and so therefore I struggle with her character already, and the way that those scenes are written, it just doesn't work for me. But in this series, I ate it up. And the reason why I ate up the spice in this series is because of the high stakes nature and the fact that the female lead character is very, very strong. And as an individual, she has her own scars that she's gotten through, and you kind of watched her progression all the way from the initial dregs of the series to this end point. So it's kind of like easier to care about this character, I feel. So for that reason, I definitely loved the Darkmore Penitentiary series. The other thing I like about these books, Zodiac Academy is a great series, and I would say up through book 7, it was done very well. Books 8 and 9, which are kind of the conclusion books of the series, I felt like were a little too long for no reason. I know I said it, but books 8 and 9, there is a lot that happens in Zodiac Academy. There's a lot more characters that you're invested in. It's not just like 2 main characters. You're following like 8 different characters in that storyline. You also like the side characters. So there's a lot more going on, and it's the big ugly. It's like the main series in this world. Like the high stakes in that is like true high stakes. Like they're fighting for ownership of the kingdom. So I'm saying like, it's top notch. It's top notch. So you need that many pages to tell that story. So I understand why it's long. But Darkmore Penitentiary, it's following kind of like this smaller cast of characters. And so the books are not as thick, which I actually enjoyed a little bit more because, and it's not to say the books are short. Like, let me tell you, this book, the first one is still 459 pages. So they're not short by any means, but this feels short to me because the other books were 1,008 pages. You know what I'm saying? So because of that, the storyline in this moves a lot faster. The romances happen a lot more quickly, more organically. It's very beautifully done, I felt. The high stakes nature of this series was also really fun for me, and I just loved point of view from point of view. The first book starts with Rosalie getting herself caught, and then thrown into jail. So it's her introduction to the prison system. It's her introduction to the various characters within the prison system. It's her introduction to a lot of the main characters. And like I said, the romance moves fast. So she does end up like with one of the characters already in the beginning of this book, and it's not one that she wants. So it's like interesting. It's a fun read. You get a little bit more of her world, her background, her story, which was very enjoyable. I also loved this book because you get the perspectives of all the boys as well in this book itself. So in Zodiac Academy, for example, the first few books, you only get the perspective of the girls. And then as the series progresses, you get more perspectives from like guy characters and side characters and all these other things, which makes it more enjoyable in my humble opinion. So what I loved about these books is that they had all the points of views of the main characters right off the bat. You also get a feeling of that sense of family and background and like just how intelligent she as a main character is, how much she's thought through, how she's planning on breaking out of this prison system and achieving the goals that she has. So it's just well written. And for that reason, I really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed the introduction into this world, into this prison system, into this life that she's now entered into. So this was a solid 4-star read for me. I loved the ending of this book. It made me want to continue the next one. The cliffhanger was great. It wasn't overwhelmingly spicy in terms of the whole series, but it did have a little bit of spice. But the primary focus of this book was really appreciating Rosalie as a character, which is why I enjoyed this one quite a bit. Then we hop into book number 2. Now, book number 2 is when they're really thinking about how they're going to escape. It starts off with them like really thinking, they're going to get away with it. And then something happens at the end of the book where she gets caught and basically throws us for a loop in terms of her relationship with one of the other main male characters. You also get more of a feel of the power struggles within the Darkmore Penitentiary world. You also get a feel for the different types of gangs that are living within the actual jail itself. You also get more of a feel of her leadership skills as like there's different battles going on within the actual jail between the Skiras and the Lunar clan, as I had mentioned before, the 2 different gangs that are in Solaria. Outside of that, you also get a feel for like the other bad guys who are inside of the prison. There's kind of like a rank system in a way where they are staying, where their bunks are. Basically, the more powerful the Fae, the more aggressively they can defend themselves, the higher up on the food chain they are, therefore the better cell that they get, and so on and so forth. So you get your own little power struggle and hierarchy and everything that's happening in the first book that also translates into this second book. You also get more in terms of one of the second main male lead characters, and he is hilarious. He is a lot to take. He's also an incubus, so a lot of his fascinations are straight up borderline insane and also like very romance charged, but also crazy violence charged, because keep in mind they are in a prison, but he only hunts the bad guys. So it's a very interesting dynamic to see him enter into the storyline and the crazy plots that he does as he tries to help Rosalie create her escape plan. You also get to see her create more of a bond with one of the other male leads whom she has been crushing on since she was a little girl. So that's also really cute to see, and that vibe was a fun part to read as well. And you just see her kind of rallying these men behind her, but also having this like carefree attitude of I don't technically need anyone. And that was like very awesome for me. So this one was also a solid 4-star read. Feral Wolf is where things start to get really interesting. This is like when things are moving really fast. You're really in the gung-ho of the storyline and the plot. They're about to break out of the prison. Like all kinds of crazy things are happening. There's like a change and a shift in terms of her relationship with some of the guards that are taking care of the prison. It's just a very interesting storyline. I think outside of just the romance and everything else that you're kind of building up in these other books and the character development and the character relationship, this is when the story actually picks up speed. So this one for me was probably my favorite. This was a 5-star read for me. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. And unfortunately, without giving away too much of the book, there's not much more detail I can say about this book, but I will say it is worth the read. It's a lot of fun. And then last but not least, we have Wild Wolf. Now this one took me for a bit of a turn because at this point, there's a lot of different things that have happened. The ending of this book destroyed me. Like I literally read the epilogue and was bawling. I was like, no, this cannot be happening to this character. And that's kind of where you take off from. So in the beginning of this book, like some of them have escaped, some of them haven't. Like there's all kinds of crazy things that are going on. They have to like find one another, and it's like very, very emotional and very moving the first half of the book. And then it kind of slows down and you get this like solid like 20 to 30% of the book where nothing is really happening. It's more about like the emotional connections and things like that. So if you enjoyed that aspect, you're going to get a lot more of that in this book. This does have the most spice also, I would say. But you're really seeing her build her mating bonds and everything with all of the main male lead characters. And then the end of this book literally takes place in the span of like the last 15% to 20% of the book. And it moves like this. And it moves so fast and everything is wrapped up for you in a nice little bow. And like the answer to everything is a celestial being. It's just a lot for me. It was a little too pretty in the way that it concluded without like giving us more. Considering how much they had ripped my heart out with all the other books that they written, I was expecting something like that, and this didn't give that. This was a very, very mild ending, if you will, compared to a lot of the other books that the two have written. But I still really enjoyed this book. I wouldn't say this was quite a 5-star for me. This was also a 4-star, but it was really fun seeing one of the characters like back history being revealed. That was really fun. It was also really cool to see them like finally beat the bad guys. So this is like, you're introduced to a bad concept that's happening in the first and second books. Then that kind of gets put aside because they're breaking out of the prison. Then that other thing comes back to play in this book. And now you have other evil villains, if you will, who are much bigger fish to fry than like the original like dangers they were facing when they were trying to break out of the prison. But that gets resolved. There's like more you get in terms of another male lead character, which is great. One of the male lead characters has like a great like history originally until he goes into prison, and he kind of resolves his issues as well. And he's also the one that has something terrible happen to him at the end of book 3, and he finally gets his happy ending in its own weird way as well. And then Rosalie's character really grows throughout the entirety of this book. I just felt like this one was fun. This one was really fun. It does wrap everything up in a nice bow. It's a little unbelievable, but overall it was a very enjoyable read. This was also like a 4.5 stars for me. It wasn't quite a 5-star because some of the things were just too easy the way that it happened. Like there's a moment that's like painful. Like when this moment happens near the end of the book, like you're like, oh. And they did something similar to this in the Zodiac Academy series in like one of the near the end books. And they spent an entire book rectifying this issue that had occurred. And in this book, it's like that scene happens and then 30 seconds later, it's resolved. So like things like that, it just didn't allow me the opportunity to have the full range of emotions that I may have been able to have had I had more time to process what was going on at the end of the book. Now, what happens in the middle is a little bit slow. I do think that it's still very important. But what I kind of wish is kind of either make the book a little bit longer in this one's case, or reduce the spice and give us more in terms of the action for us to process our emotions and feel the things that we need to feel. And that's us. It does not necessarily mean you guys. I'm just like referring to readers as a whole, and that's probably wrong because everyone reads differently and their opinions are different. But these are just my personal opinions. That being said, I still adored this book. This was still a 4.5 stars. And altogether, that brings us to the end of my series review for the Darkmore Penitentiary series. I realize I didn't give too many details in this review, but that's on purpose because these books move by so fast. I don't want to give away everything. But I will say that it was probably my favorite of the other, of the 2 series outside of Zodiac Academy. So here's my thing. I gave this series a solid 4.5 stars. A solid 4.25 stars. But when you think about Zodiac Academy had a lot of books where I was like, why? But then it also had so many books where I was like, this is amazing. So in the entire Zodiac Academy series of 14 books, there was maybe like 4 books that I didn't really love or enjoy. No, that's not true. It's probably more like 5 or 6 books that I didn't really truly love or enjoy. But the way that the series are written, there's a lot of like growth that you do with the characters. There's a lot of emotional like changes that occur throughout that book series. So because it's so long, because there's so many pages, and because you grow so much with those characters, I feel like the series as a whole still rates higher than the Darkmore Penitentiary. But in terms of standalone books and the quality of the writing and the quality of the books, you can definitely tell that they're writing these books later in their career. You can definitely tell that there was more thought process into the plot line and things like that with how this book series was released and how it plays out. And for that reason, I really enjoyed it. Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac was a struggle for me. I truly, truly struggled with that series. I do not think it needed to be 5 books, and I do not think the books needed to be as long as they were. If those books were written in this length, I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more. Also, the other issue I had with Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac is there's 2 major plot lines that are happening. One is the gang war that I was talking about, and then the other one is the bigger issue that's happening, the mystery that our main female character is trying to resolve. And I just felt like it didn't need to take 5 books to get to that conclusion, or to see the romance play out between our main female lead and her harem of men. Like, the men are so great, and the main character, the female character, just fell so flat for me. Like, she was so 2-dimensional that I think I struggled with that series. The reason why this series was so much better, even though it's reverse harem and even though there's a lot of things going on, is because I knew all the side characters already because I'd already invested into the other, 19 books. And then also the other thing I loved about this series that was more enjoyable is I love our female lead character. I truly do. I think she's a very, very beautifully written character. I think we see a lot of growth in her all the way from her beginning introductions in Ruthless Boys all the way till this series. So it's really nice to see her get her happy ending. It's also really beautiful to see her relationships with the guys that she does end up connecting with and how those connections happen. So overall, this was just a really fun series for me. At the end of the day, I would say that Zodiac Academy is a commitment. It is not necessarily for the weak of heart, but it is a lot of fun. And if you're looking for a dark, twisted Harry Potter, this is it. This is truly it. Like, I do agree with that. It is not Harry Potter in any way, shape, or form. It is spicy fae. It is spicy fae romance craziness that is happening. Magic systems, all of that good stuff is there. However, it is not as wholesome as Harry Potter is, but it's still a beautiful series. If you're looking for an adult series that's going to give you that similar kind of vibe to Harry Potter, then yes, this is it. This is a fall read. It's taking place in academic settings, except for this one. This series is taking place in a prison system, but the rest of them are in academic settings. Like, they're talking about power struggles, fae. There's crazy things happening outside of the academy, but then you also have things happening within the school system as well. And more school vibes, like if you want them learning, if you want them growing, if you want them like being encouraged to appreciate the magic and pour their effort into learning, that's going to be Zodiac Academy. Ruthless Boys had a little bit of that, but Ruthless Boys was definitely more murder mystery vibes, which it didn't need to be 5 books, in my humble opinion. This Darkmore Penitentiary series is definitely going to be more high stakes, prison system, like craziness happening. Your characters are obviously a lot more black and gray, gray and... They're a lot more gray. They're not black and white. That's what I was trying to say. So that part is more fun about this series for me. This is definitely more adult. So imagine, if you will, that the first 3 books of Zodiac Academy are probably going to be closer to your Harry Potter like 1 and 2 vibes. Like, the characters are still young. There's a lot of craziness happening, but it's still adult themed. Lots of bullying. Lots and lots of bullying. So if you're not ready for that, don't do it. I wasn't ready for it. It took me a lot to accept what happened in the first book and then accept the end of that series. But it does get better. I promise it get better. And then Ruthless Boys is probably like, books 5 of Harry Potter, like 4 and 5. No, I wouldn't even say that. I don't know how to explain Ruthless Boys, guys. As you can tell, I love the male characters in Ruthless Boys. I love the characters you're introduced to. I love the side characters in that plot. I just don't like our main lead. So it was a struggle for me. But I will say that I can understand why people compare it to an adult Harry Potter vibe. It's definitely a great fall read. It definitely has magic systems. It definitely talks about school and growth and all these things, and it's high stakes. So, but with a lot of romance, a lot of spice. So it's definitely for adults. I would say mature for sure. But hopefully that gave you guys some inkling. I feel like I was rambling a lot in this video, and I sincerely apologize for that. I know it was supposed to be specifically about Darkmore Penitentiary series, and I ended up kind of doing a series review like of all of the books in this little blob that I'm doing here. But I will say that if you already invested your time into Zodiac Academy and you're like, I like these characters, but I just don't know if I want to keep going, these are your books. These are your books. These are great. These are so much fun. High ratings and rankings on all of these. I really, truly enjoyed them. I enjoyed all the characters. I love our male leads. I love our female leads. I love the crazy adventures they go on. I love the prison system. I love what happens after they break out of the prison system. I just love all of it. It was great. And it kept me on the edge of my seat the whole time, which is what was enjoyable for me. I finished all 4 books in 4 days. So yeah, fun, fast-paced reads. Would recommend. Hope you guys enjoy this review. That being said, thank you so much for joining me. If you made it this far, thanks for sticking around. I really do appreciate you. And if you are new and this is up your alley and your kind of vibe, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell. Once again, I put out videos every Sunday and Wednesday. For those of you who are returning, thank you so much for being here. If you've read the series, whether you're new or returning, let me know. Let me know your thoughts. I want to know. I want to know what you guys thought. And if you felt like the investment of time into the book series was something you enjoyed. Also, let me know if you're planning on reading Neverkeep. I will be reading it. I just won't be reading it until more books in the series are released, because literally the review that the authors themselves wrote is that this book will destroy you. So I'm like, I'm okay with being destroyed, just not without a conclusion. So we're going to wait for the happy ending to come through, and then we'll go and read the series and get destroyed. But until next time, I'm going to now be exiting the world of Solaria. And I do thank you all for coming on the journey with me. Bye, guys.